What's up, guys? It's Sam here, and I have an awesome video for you where we just released the research on the Twitter rankings of the Democratic candidates for president, and I wanted to get into all of that. So, with that being said, if this is your first time here, what's good? My name is Sam, and for those of you who are returning, it's good to freaking see you. Don't forget to press that thumbs up button. Now let's get into it. Well, what are the Twitter rankings? Well, what we do is we pull data from Social Blade. What is Social Blade? They track individual profiles on a myriad of different social platforms. As you can see here, there's a bunch of different platforms that they track. I don't think the API for Instagram works properly, but at least I haven't got it to work properly. But all the other stuff works fine. So what we do is we come down here and we look at a few different things here. So first of all, we want to look at the volume of output, like how much work is somebody putting in on Twitter. And a gauge to do that would be how many tweets they're doing in a 30-day period. Assuming that they're not using bots, which I don't think that they are based on what I've seen. It is possible, but it doesn't look like that. I could probably notice a big spike in some type of the data that I look at. So anyways, we take this number here, which is the number of tweets, as a representation of how much work they're putting in, and that is, I believe, 30% of the average overall ranking. And then we take a look at the growth rate from over the last 2 weeks, from the 18th of the month to the 5th of the month. So about 2 weeks, and we look at that growth rate, but we also look at the absolute number of followers that has increased, because they're both valuable pieces of information. The growth rate over a period of time it carries some information, and you can tell if somebody's growing at, say, 300% versus somebody's going at 14%, like how that happens. But you also want to know the absolute numbers, because if you have somebody going to 300% and they have 300 followers versus somebody growing at 14% but they have 8 million followers, there's a little bit of a fucking difference there. And so that is why we take both of those numbers, where we give a lot more weighting to the overall ranking in the absolute number. 55% of the total average comes from just the increase in sheer volume of new followers. And then I think about 15% or 20% comes from the growth. And I took all this data for each one of these categories, right? The growth rate, the total number of tweets, and I put it all into a spreadsheet for each one of the candidates, and I ranked them 1 through 11, and this is what I got. So real quick, the top 5 Twitter. So this is the top 5 ranking for Twitter. We have Andrew Yang as number 1, Bernie Sanders as number 2, Elizabeth Warren as number 3. We have a newcomer here. You can see he's got a big fucking smile on his face because he has not been in this ranking before. And that is Julian Castro pulling in the top 5. What's good? He has made a tremendous progress there. And then Pete Buttigieg is also, looks like he moved up a spot as well. So that rounds out the top 5, but I wanted to take a look at some of the numbers here, like what we were talking about. I think something kind of interesting, if you look over here, right, these are the total number of tweets that each candidate has put out on over the past 30 days. And what stands out to me is that there's one person who's putting out twice as much as everybody else, and that's Andrew Yang. So, like, I don't know, just makes sense that he would be number 1. I don't know, right? I mean, somebody's putting out a fucking 1,000 pieces of content a month versus somebody, the next closest person is Julian. He's putting out 520. And I bet if I look back at this data, we can see where Julian was, or if he's always been at that volume of let's see, Julian had 300. So if we look back over here, let's start at the beginning, right? This was back in August. Julian had 291, then 314, and then 572. And so it took him time, but you can see that what he's doing works. Like it's pretty interesting because he's been able to move up, and that momentum of putting in all that work online relative to everybody else is really building up for him. That's just kind of interesting to actually watch. So he's moved up 3 spots, which is awesome. Bernie Sanders also moved up 2 spots. He originally came in number 2 in our ranking. Then he went up to 4th, and he's been at 4th for a while now. He finished out October in 4th, but this would be a step in the right direction for Bernie Sanders. Let's see who else. Oh, Tulsi Gabbard. She went from 2nd to 8th. So the attention was short-lived, at least on Twitter, over the past several weeks here, because she's just, the bottom has gone out, like, you know what I mean? Whatever that saying is, the floor underneath her is just gone, and she's just dropping precipitously. To 8th, from 2nd to 8th. That's the quickest drop I think I've seen out of all these rankings that I do. If you want to check them out, go back to the channel. But this is the quickest I think I've seen anybody drop is 6 spots, or like movement, whether it's up or down. I think this is the biggest movement that I've ever seen out of one of these. Another, Kamala Harris actually gained 2 spots, so that's kind of interesting, because Kamala Harris was 9th, and then now she's beating Tulsi from last week. And I'm super curious to hear what your thoughts are down below. What we're trying to do is capture the understanding of American, like what the essence of America is, like the heartbeat of America in terms of what they're thinking about. And that is why we do these. And I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. If you use the hashtag Stolt, we can get to those comments at the end of the video where we dive into some of the comments and just respond to them or answer questions. So with that being said, let's get into it. So we have Always Right 2.0. What's good 2.0? Solid info. This is in reference to the National Power Rankings video, which was released I think about a week ago. So you should go check that out. There's I think around 12 or 14,000 people have already looked at it. One of the most popular videos I've ever put out. So you should go check that out. But the polls are flawed fundamentally, given value to each of the data inputs probably needs adjusting. I think the donations category needs more weight since donations pay for everything and tweets don't. I think that's a question, be like the chicken or the egg, right? Where do you think the donations come from? The people who are reading the tweets. I mean, like, yes, it's people who open up their wallet, so I do think that's important. But I think the attention needs to be garnered somewhere for people to be aware of this candidate, right? Of whoever it is. They have to be aware of this person to be able to go to their website and donate for them. So I don't know. I'm definitely open to potentially changing things, and I sometimes do adjust the weightings in the categories as I feel that, like, if something's going to represent more of reality, or sounds, my intuition is telling me it's going to be more accurate, I might adjust the weightings in terms of the averages. When I do one of these rankings, because I want to actually understand. I'm not trying to like do anything other than really honestly understand for myself, like, what the fuck's going on. And I find it super interesting. So thumbs up for that. The next awesome comment, by the way, appreciate it. And love to know your thoughts. Use the, again, hashtag Stolt, and we can get to it. This next one is from Ahura. Mazda, what's good? Refreshing and interesting subbing, and gonna get on your following your index. Sweet, thank you so much. If you guys are not subscribed, you should definitely be fucking subscribed. Look at this gold that we're dropping here on the internet. This is his comment, but yes, there's a deep methodological, not super great reading, problems in your model to methodological, I think methodology, I think is what he's saying. Like there's a problem with the methodology I'm using, I believe is what he's saying. Too many voters don't really research and go hear the candidates on YouTube and reads their websites. No, instead it's identify with or who my tribe is voting to, not to mention the biases from basing all this data on the web, which is largely bias of the young, and half the nation is over 40. Interesting nevertheless. So awesome. First of all, thank you for the comment. I appreciate the insights and interesting comments that I get. And that's why I put them at the end, because I want to bring attention to where there's a lot of gold in the comment section. Okay, so let's get into this. So too many voters don't really research and go hear candidates. I think that is definitely true in the past. I mean, if you just look at the numbers, millions and millions and millions of people are researching these candidates on YouTube and watching videos on them. I'm just looking at the data. That's the data says that a shitload of people are fucking looking, right? I mean, that's what it says. So I don't think that's necessarily accurate. I do agree there's probably a fuckload of the population who does not. But I don't know if it's a 50-50 split. I don't know if it's a 70-30. I don't know where we draw that distinction. And I know that YouTube is the second largest site in the planet. So like there's a fuckload of attention there. And then you look at it from the other hand, it's like we have polling data, right? So if you pull up Real Clear Politics and you go to their national ranking and you look at the one that's the latest one up there, I think is from Economist, and you look at the total number, that's N, which is the sample size of the population that they asked these questions, and it's like 1,500 fucking people. Yeah, that versus the semantics of whatever we want to talk about over here. I mean, it's like it's like we're driving a Tesla, or you got like a motorbike that you're like actually pedaling. There's a huge difference in the amount of data involved there. So it just seems way more accurate. Instead of I do agree that some people are very they're just gonna go with whoever like their fucking boyfriend or girlfriend or mom or dad tells them to go with. I agree, that's definitely a portion of the population for sure. I don't know how big it is. I'd like to think it's probably in the, you know, I don't know, maybe 10 to 30% range. I don't know. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts down below. This last part here I want to get into as well. Not to mention the biases from basing all this data in the web data, which is largely unbiased for young people. So yes, you are correct. But if you look at the data, which I'll do another video on this at some point, but there's research from Pew Research that shows that the voter that is 53 to 18, that demographic, like that age group, is going to represent, I think it's around 63% of the entire voting population in 2020, versus 54 and older, which is the baby boomers and the group of the generation after them. That's going to be the 38% or the 37%. So there's the 63% of people who are 53 to 18. Where do you think those people spend their time? Boom. On YouTube, online. I mean, yes, there's definitely a shitload of people who don't, but I mean, the data just shows that there's a lot more people in that demo, right? Of 18 to 53 who spend time online versus the 54 to say 100 plus who spend time online. right? And they're gaining attention in these areas because it represents 63% of the total voting population in 2020, and that is assumed that they couldn't get attention on the internet and then have like the old school legacy like media people talk about it so that the rest of that population also hears about these people. It's just I think it's I don't know whether people want to agree with it today or they want to agree with it in another 4 years. Like it's already happened. It's just whether people want to be honest with themselves, in my opinion. But time will tell, and you guys can fucking call me out and yeah, next several years and or whatever, and see if like you're fucking wrong. But that means you would have to subscribe to follow me for the next several years. And if you're watching this whole time, you had better be fucking doing that. I appreciate your time, and I'll talk to you soon.